And welcome back to another podcast with Mr. Hagan. On this podcast, we're going to start to talk about the concept of pure monopoly. Pure monopoly. So to do that, let's first talk about. I did talk about this on some other playlists, but let's just kind of review here what it means to be a firm. What's a firm look like from an economics point of view? So the way I want to think about a firm is this kind of diagram right here. So when I think about a firm, I think about this. A firm is it's an institution that goes into the marketplace and buys inputs, and by inputs we mean resources, and by resources I mean land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurial skills. So the firm goes and they purchase these inputs, and when the firm buys those inputs, that is called a cost for the firm. That is called a cost for the firm. So maybe if I'm a company and I'm going to produce paper, I have to go into the market maybe, and I have to buy maybe acres, woodland, trees, chainsaws. I have to pay workers. I have to all those kinds of things I have to buy, and those are called costs for the firm. And then I'm going to take all of those inputs and I'm going to produce something. In my example, I'm going to produce paper. And then I'm going to take that paper and I'm going to sell it over here in the output market. The output market is where the firm sells goods and services. So the firm is going to sell goods and services, such as selling paper maybe to businesses or schools or things like that. And the money that the firm gets from selling the paper is called revenue. That's called revenue. So a paper company, has to go buy inputs. They have to go buy resources. They have to go buy land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurial skills, and that's called a cost. And then they take that land, labor, capital, entrepreneurial skills, and they use it to produce something like paper, and then they sell that paper and get money for doing so. And that's called revenue. And then to calculate the firm's profit, what we call the economic profit, we take the revenue that the firm brings in minus the costs of production, and then that's going to give you the profit. Technically here, the economic profit, since as economists, when we think about costs, we're thinking about both implicit and explicit costs. And if you're not sure what that means, you can go watch another one of my videos on that. So the question that the monopolist has to ask itself is, how much should I produce? What quantity should we produce of the good? In my example, it'd be how many reams of paper should we produce, and what price should we charge? What is the price that we should charge for our good? For example, what price should we charge for paper? And so we want to pick a quantity and a price that is going to maximize this profit, the economic profit. That's the goal of the firm, is to maximize that economic profit. Now, the firm is going to produce in one of four possible market structures. The firm is going to produce under pure competition. That means there's a lot of other firms competing against them to sell the product. They might produce in a monopolistic competition environment where there's still a fair amount of competition. There's a fair number of firms. They might produce in an oligopolistic market where there might only be like 2, 3, 4, 5 firms, something like that. But what we're going to focus on this video and on this playlist is pure monopoly. That is to say, what if the firm produces in a marketplace where they are the only producer of the good? They are the only producer of the good, and that would be pure monopoly. So in my example, if this is a paper company and they are the only paper company in the market, if you want to buy paper, you have to buy it from them. Then they are a monopolist, a pure monopoly. That's when there's only one producer of the good. So the question is, what does this look like? What are the characteristics? How do we know when we're looking at a monopoly market? Well, one characteristic that I just mentioned is that there's only one seller of the good. That means that there's only one firm in the market that is selling that good. There's one company that is selling whatever that good is. That's one characteristic of a pure monopoly market. Number two is they are a price maker. And that means that they literally have control over the price. They literally have control over the price. And you might think to yourself, well, wouldn't they always have control over the price? But the answer to that is no. In a purely competitive environment, they would not have control over the price. They would be what is called a price taker. And you can watch my videos on pure competition. You can watch my playlist if you want to go learn about that. So in pure monopoly, there's one firm, and they are a price maker. They control the price. And why do they control the price? Well, because they're the only one that produces the good, and they set the price where they want. And you either buy the good from them, or you just don't. You just won't have the good. Number three, they are a unique producer of the good. That is to say that there are no close substitutes to the good. There are no close substitutes. It's a unique good that they are producing. That's a characteristic of a monopoly. And then number four is, and this number four really is the key to the whole thing, and that is that there is restricted entry. For some reason, in some way, shape, or form, they are restricting entry. No other firms, for whatever reason, can come in and compete. No other firms can come and enter the market. So that restricted entry, where for some reason no other firms can come enter the market, that will mean that I'm producing a unique good and will make me the only seller of the good, and therefore I will become a price maker. So maybe if we're talking about a paper company, and if I'm the paper company and I own all the forest land in the country, then, well, nobody else then can produce paper, and therefore entry is restricted. No other paper companies can come in and compete against me. No other companies can come into the paper industry. So I am the unique producer of the good. I am a price maker, and I am the only firm that is selling the good. So whenever these four things exist, we're going to be looking at a pure monopoly market. Now in some upcoming videos, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about number one, how does this happen? Why do pure monopolies exist? What causes restricted entry? What's the cause of that? And I just kind of hinted at one a little bit. And then we will also talk about then what a monopoly, how a monopolist behaves with regards to production and the price that they charge. So we'll talk about that on some of the other videos on this playlist. All right, this has been Mr. Hagan with another podcast. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you on the next Econ podcast.